Someone recently created a version of ChatGPT called AutoGPT, still powered by ChatGPT, but it could do things ChatGPT just can't do. And it runs locally on your computer. So if you have a PC, if you have a Mac, you could actually install it on your computer with a few simple steps that I'm going to show you how to do in this video. And there are plenty of tutorials online about this, but they're far too complicated. I'm going to simplify this so anybody without any technical knowledge could actually install AutoGPT and run it on their local device. And some of my favorite ways to use AutoGPT is one, it has internet access, so it could do Google searches for you. It could actually output what it found in text format in your own computer, so you could actually review it later, and it has access itself. It also could come up with ongoing prompts for itself. So you actually give it a big task, and then it makes smaller tasks for itself, and every step of the way is going to ask for your input or approval before it just keeps on going. And it could actually access a whole world of plugins because this is, again, on your computer, so no one else is controlling it once you install it on your local device. These things just can't happen on any version of ChatGPT that other people are creating that are web-based or online. So I'll show you exactly how to install it step by step. The very first step on the process is going to this page here, and this is going to walk you through step by step how to do it, but I'll do this much simpler in this video because this is still made for developers and I want to make this accessible to any person that wants to download AutoGPT without any technical knowledge. Now, I will link everything I'm going to mention in order. So this link to this website and everything else I'll mention, I'll put in the first comment below or in the description below. And the first thing it's going to tell you is you could actually run AutoGPT on Mac or PC in 3 different ways, but you need to choose which way. Now, some other tutorials that are way too complicated, way too long are using the Python method. Way too complicated. Some are using this code developer called Visual Studio. We could use Visual Studio just to simplify some things that are technical. I'll show you that. But we're going to use the very first recommended method called Docker. So that's the first step. We're going to click over here and we need to install this program called Docker. Choose Windows or Mac, depending on what you're on. They have it for Linux too. I'm going to choose Mac here. I've installed it on Windows too, so I'll point out the differences as we go. I have the Intel chip Mac. It's a little bit older, so I'm going to go ahead and download it here. And here's the document. I'm going to click here in my download. It shows up in my download folder. I'm going to drag it onto my applications folder. And this computer actually doesn't have any of this stuff installed. I have installed it before on PC and Mac, but not on this one. This is a laptop that has none of this installed. Now, if I go to my applications folder, I could look for Docker here, double click to open it up here to make sure I go through the installation process now that it's inside of my applications folder. So find your application here, your applications folder, and open it and go through the rest of the process with Docker. I'll accept and use recommended setting, finish. Type in my password. This is my password for the computer. And I could either skip or answer these questions here to set up the rest of it. I'm gonna go ahead and set up the rest. Okay, now this is set up, so I'm gonna go ahead and minimize Docker. I don't need it right now. And I'll go back to the website where we did our setup. So I'll close all these, and here back in the setup mode, next step is we need to get something called the API key. Now, API key comes from the same company, OpenAI, that makes ChatGPT. So they made ChatGPT, the original version, version 4, all of that comes from OpenAI. So we need to give this key basically to our setup so we could access that information. Without that, we're not going to be able to get the information from ChatGPT to run AutoGPT. Even though AutoGPT is made by developers that are not related to ChatGPT, we still need to set this up. So they're going to give you a link. Again, this will be the second link we need to click on. And this link is going to bring us to platform.openai.com. And this is where our API key is going to be accessed. Now, we have to have an account here for OpenAI or ChatGPT. So I already use ChatGPT, so I have an account. So I'm going to log into that account. If you don't, just sign up if you haven't used the regular ChatGPT before. Once you log in, this link will bring you to the API key page. So this is what it looks like, and you could create a new key. So you just press create a new secret key, and then you could name your key. So you could name it AutoGPT, for example, and create a key. So I'm going to name it AutoGPT2 just to have it, and I'll delete it. And then this is your secret key. Don't share this with anyone, and make sure you copy it, because as soon as you press done, it will not be editable again. You can't find a whole key. So make sure you copy it, click here, copy it to a safe text format or any type of place you save this, maybe a Google Doc, and then go ahead and press done. Now you could delete these anytime. So you could press the delete key if you didn't copy it, or if you want to make a new one, or if you don't want anyone to access it, just press delete right over here. Next is going to actually tell you to set up your billing. Okay, this is going to charge you a little bit. Sometimes it's pennies, sometimes it's $1. Let me just show you where that's set up. It's in the same place, but it's under the billing tab. So on the left side, there's a billing tab. Click here. And then you want to set up a method of payment. Now, if you pay for ChatGPT, you might have set this up already, but set up some kind of credit card payment. Then I'll show you here, if you go to usage, this tab, this is going to tell you how often it's going to charge you. Okay, so far I've only spent 35 cents and I've made maybe 4 different types of tutorials around these kind of things. And that's my total for the whole month is 35 cents. And they have a cap actually on their billing. So you could actually set a usage limit right here to make sure your hard limit doesn't exceed $120 a month. That's by default. So this way, if you run something that just ends up going for a long time, you still hit this hard limit and don't spend more than you want to. So even if you want to spend less than $20 a month, just change your hard limit here. Now, this next step is setting up AutoGPT. Now, this is a little bit technical, but it's really something anybody could do. So what you need to do is basically paste this into a command prompt inside of your computer. So on a Mac, there's an app called Terminal. On your PC, it's actually called Command Shell. So Windows Command Shell. You open that up. I'll show you Terminal here on my Mac. So I'll search for Terminal up here, press Enter. This is Terminal. So I just need to copy this right here. If I take this and press copy, and if I paste this right here and press Enter, it's actually going to run the latest version and pull what basically all this data is. So you see it's downloading a bunch of data. Now, if I don't have Docker installed and set up in the previous step, it's not going to find anything, right? So that's why we are doing this in step by step. And I'll put this in a text format too on my website in a very clear step-by-step instruction with this video. So if you want to watch it there and just refer back to the description section to make it a little bit easier, things that I just couldn't put on the YouTube page, I'll make it easier with resources there. Now it says it has the latest version of Docker. So let's go back to our format here. And then it says create a folder called AutoGPT. Now we're gonna create a regular folder on our computer. So I'm gonna open Finder, I'll go to my documents, and I'm going to just create a new folder, again, called AutoGPT. And then if I go back, it says now that you've created that, inside of it, create a text file called docker/compose/yml. So I'm gonna go in here and I need to create a text file in here. So to do that, you have a lot of text creation, not Microsoft Word or anything like that, but typically you have different apps like text editor. You need this to be very plain text. So if I open up text editor here, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cancel this. I'm gonna press file and new. I'm gonna create a text basically. I'm gonna name this exactly what this told me to name it, which is this document name. I'm gonna copy this over and I'll go ahead and name it that. Make sure there's no spaces, okay? And I'll just make sure I save this inside of my documents, right? Same place. There we go, we have the name. Now we need to copy this information, right? So this is the code basically that we need to copy. So I'll go ahead and copy this code all the way to the bottom. Copy this, bring it over here, and then I'll go ahead and paste. There we go. So now we need to save this. So I'm gonna go to File and Save. So now it's been saved, I could close it. Now let me go back to that Finder window. Okay, I put it actually right outside. It needs to be inside of this folder called AutoGPT. I'll drag it, put it in here. Okay, now I'm gonna just press Enter and actually make sure this is saved as a YML and not a RTF. Okay, so use YML. There we go. So everything is set up based on what this told us to do. Now we're gonna get to the section where we gotta configure a few different files. So it says create a necessary configuration. If needed, use this template, okay? So this one is going to take a few different steps. If I click over here, basically it's gonna take these 6 steps, but then you're done. If you do these 6 steps, it's going to be all done. So to do that, what we need to do, I'll come back up here and we'll go to the repository here, okay? So I'll click repository. This is going to take you to another page here called github.com, and this is where the code for AutoGPT is saved. This is a big website for developers. They basically contribute and save their codes here. Okay, if I go to the bottom of all these codes, I should see a section called latest release. You see that? If I click over to latest release, it's gonna bring me to the latest version of AutoGPT. Now they update this almost every single week, so you're gonna see a different number by the time you watch this video. But let me go all the way to the bottom, because on the bottom, you'll see all the different developers that contributed to this project. This is an experimental project. And the source code is here. I need to download this zip file, okay? I'm gonna click, it's gonna download it to my computer. This is all the code for AutoGPT, the latest version. I'm gonna open it. It's gonna extract it, and you see, put it over here. I'm gonna just take it to my documents folder. So it's in the same place as the other one. So if I go to documents, this is the folder I just created with the Docker. This is the AutoGPT one I just downloaded. So this is gonna have a bunch of stuff inside of it that you don't need to worry about, okay? Now, I need to do a couple of different things to configure this. So it says find a file name .env.template in the main AutoGPT folder. That's the one I just downloaded. So I'll go ahead and go there. I'm gonna open it. And here, this is where you would find that document, except it's a hidden document, unfortunately. So you have to show hidden documents. I'm gonna show you the simplest way I know how to do this, because there's some ways that you'll have to use way too much of a complicated code to do this. But there is a version of this that's much easier to do, and that is by using another app called Visual Studio. Now this one you could download from code.visualstudio.com. This is a very popular app that most developers use for coding, but it's gonna actually let us make that couple of tiny adjustments for the code. So I'm gonna download again a version of it for my computer. So in this case, it's gonna download it for my Mac. If you have a PC, it's gonna know that. And if you already have this, obviously, it's not going to require you to download it. You could just go ahead and open it. I'll go ahead and unzip this, and I'll double click from my download folder to install this app. And you could just X out of everything or just get through to get to this page. Okay, so now inside of here, all you have to do is go to File, and then you want to open a folder. This is the folder for inside of our desktop for ChatGPT. It's gonna see all the files, even the hidden ones. So if I open it, I'm gonna trust the author. I'm gonna press OK. I'm gonna let this install for a second. Okay, then if I, again, go over here to Explore, it's gonna show this basically table of content, and this is what it was asking me to find, .env.template. Okay, so let's go back to the document again. And basically we did all of that with Visual Studio to be able to find this hidden file. So you don't have to use Visual Studio. You could actually try to find the hidden files. This is basically on Windows and Mac. It tells you how to do it, but it requires stuff in terminal. I like Visual Studio. I could see it physically on there. And it says create a copy of that and call it .env. Okay, so I could create a copy of that. I'll go back to Visual Studio. This is really easy to do. I'm gonna go ahead and just create a new one right here. This is the new .env. That's what it told me to make. And then I could go in this one. So here, just select everything. So on the Mac is Command A, PC Control A. I'm gonna right click and copy everything. I'll bring it back here and I'll right click and paste everything, okay? So there we go. We just made a copy of this and named it env. And I'm gonna go ahead and press File and save this one. And then let's go back, and it told you to do one more thing here. So I created the copy, and then here it says open in a text editor, right? In this case, I have the Visual Studio, so that's my text editor. I don't have to do that. I have the Open API key. Now, if I didn't save it, I need to go back, create a new one based on a previous step, but I saved it, so I'm gonna copy it. And inside of Visual Studio, in that new document I made, there's a section here called Open API key. Your API key goes here. So I need to erase it, leave the equal sign, and paste it. Okay, there we go. So I pasted my Open API key. One more step you need to do, which it doesn't show you in the document if you have a Mac. So let me go ahead and File, Save. And then I'm gonna do Control F to find something on a Mac. So if I search for the word Mac, it shows me this section. I need to remove this hashtag to activate it, and I need to change false to true. I need to type that in here, okay? So that's all I did, remove hashtag. Now this is activated for a Mac inside of this env. Now I'm gonna save that. If you're on a PC, you don't have to do that step. You just type in your API key. That's what all this section is for. Okay, then it says enter the API key and then save it. And then it says you could type in all kinds of different API keys here. This is why AutoGPT is a lot more powerful than some of the ones that are web-based, right? So there's web-based versions that I'll point out at the end of the video that I made complete videos on that do some of these things, but you don't have control, right? Because someone else set them up. This is local for you. So then I'm going to save and close that document. So this was the document. I saved that already. I'm going to close it. Okay, so everything pretty much inside of Visual Studio could be closed. And that's pretty much it. It's going to give you some other options for running GPT on Azure and things like that. And this basically could tap into things called plugins, all kinds of different APIs from different companies. We just logged into the OpenAI one to get access to ChatGPT, but this could do so many more things with plugins that I'm not going to cover in this video, but you could look into some of the plugin options once you get this up and running. Okay, now I need to run this AutoGPT, and it says the best way to do that is using this command. And this is again inside of my command app, or in this case it was terminal on a Mac. So I'm gonna just create a new window here. I close that one and I'll paste that and I'll press enter. And because again I have Docker installed, it's gonna give me some options. And one of them is a command called cd. So if I basically, this is gonna let me look into the folder where all this information is saved. Okay, so let me go back to my Finder window here, and I was in this folder right here. Okay, so I need to find the path for this folder, and usually it shows up on a window in a URL type of thing, but on Mac you have to go to Window and you need to basically show the path bar. That's basically what you'll see over here, and then you could copy this pathway, okay, path name. And then if I go here, so cd space and then paste that and enter, it's gonna bring me into this folder. So this is just a command to get into a folder, right? In your Finder window, you just double click to get into it, but this is how you get into that folder. So now inside of that folder, I could go back and I could basically build an image, this Docker image. If I copy this over and paste it here inside of this folder and press enter, it's gonna ask me to access my documents, okay? And then it's gonna basically write a whole bunch of stuff here, okay? If you get an error, that means you weren't in the right folder. So make sure you follow that path. You put in that command that I showed you, cd space, and then the user path, wherever you saved it. So I don't know exactly where you saved it. If you saved it in your documents folder, it's gonna look something like mine. Then it's gonna assemble this. This is gonna take a couple minutes here to assemble it, then I'll show you the next step as well. And while this is running, I'll also put a link to a website that we're building out that is going to be a complete library of content for all things AI and for beginners as well as intermediate, but nothing advanced. This is not for developer, for regular people that are just trying to be better, more productive, just more efficient at work. With AI, we have all kinds of tutorials and courses. It's gonna be Netflix style, really easy to use. So I'll go ahead and link that below. It should be released soon by the time you watch this, but if it's not, you'll have a countdown. You could give me your email and I'll notify you when it's released, so you could be one of the first people to test it out. Okay, this is done. So only one more step is left, which is running AutoGPT. And the command for that, again, is this right here. I'll copy this command, I'll bring it back here, and I'll paste it, and I'll press enter. Now, this is actually gonna build out AutoGPT for us inside of here. And once we name our AutoGPT, AutoGPT could be named anything. Once we name it, we could always open up terminal or the Windows version of it, the command shell, and basically run it. So I'm gonna just press OK here. And then it says press enter to continue. I'll press enter. And then it says I want AutoGPT 2. So this is basically the task I'm going to give it. I want AutoGPT 2 to build me a business for my video company. And in this case, it's basically named it CEO GPT. The role is an AI designed to assist entrepreneurs in building successful video production businesses, providing expert guidance in all aspects of business development. The goal is to conduct market research, and it's going to give you the 5 different goals it has. Sometimes it actually gives you a prompt for that, so you can name it yourself. You could actually tell it the goal, you could give it a role, and then you could type that in. And as you can see, it's going to keep running. So this is the thought, this is the reasoning, this is the plan. And you could give it an input here, basically based on what it's trying to do. So in this case, it's trying to do a Google search, okay? So the plan is to conduct market research, which requires Google search. And then you could basically type in Y or no, N for no, to stop it. If you give it Y, so I'll put Y here and press enter, it's actually going to do the thing. So here it's doing a Google search. These are all the different things it's going to search for. It's going to say thinking. And if I scroll back up a little bit, by the way, there's something called plugin support too. So you could see plugin support On the website that I showed you from the documentation, they show you all about plugin support right here under the GitHub page. So you could learn more about that, because right now it is doing things ChatGPT can't do right now. So all these internet searches, it's gonna make text documents in a second with what it found, so you could refer back to it. It's going to sit in my local computer, right? And I could change the code and figure things out in GitHub and do all kinds of different things, right? And then it's gonna ask me again if I wanna give it input or if I wanna just agree with this plan, right? So thought, reasoning, plan, criticism, and then tells me what the next action in that it wants to do. So I could literally sit here and just press Y. Now, a little bit of money is gonna be spent on the Open API side, so you could go to the usage tab and you could see that. Right now it's probably just 2 cents I've spent in the last hour, right? It's not very much, but make sure you keep track of your own, especially if you're using the latest version of ChatGPT. Sometimes that could add up, but make sure you keep on that. So I'll just keep saying yes, and I'll get exactly what I need. So this is still going to be in the world of research, and then it's gonna give me the text documents, and it's gonna keep going with the plan till as long as I want, right? My end goal is to launch a business, right? So it's gonna help me get to that point with all kinds of ways that I basically need to implement. It's gonna do a lot of the work for me. Now, 2 other options besides AutoGPT, there is a version of it called Agent GPT. It's a website that's kind of like this. It's not local on your computer. I have a video for that I'll link below as well. There's another thing called God Mode. Again, someone made this version for the internet on a different website. So that one could actually give you text outputs too. Very close to this one. Again, you don't have access to the code with that as well, right? So you can't do plugins and things that you could do with this. So it's a good combination to kind of learn a little bit about each one and see where the limitations are, and then see where you want to take it from here. So I'm going to keep going with this plan, and I'm going to get all kinds of different search results here, research, outputs, and it's probably going to save me days and days and days on doing this manually on my own. Again, all the resources are linked and organized below this video. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you next time.